Hello world, my name is Tyler Campbell, and it brings me so much joy and excitement in my soul to be able to introduce Pro Player Foundation's initiative, Educate, Elevate, Collaborate, which is a multiple sclerosis initiative aimed to increase awareness, engagement, and outreach. Educate, Elevate, Collaborate are made up of 3 different pillars. Pillar number 1 being a social media campaign where we utilize our pro player ambassadors and their social media platform to spread our message. Pillar number 2 is a photo novella project that details my multiple sclerosis diagnosis. Not only about how I was diagnosed, but also that I faced this disease, but not only that, embraced this diagnosis. Let that marinate on the cerebellum for a second. And then pillar number 3 is our virtual live collaborative panel that will utilize myself as well as my father, NFL Hall of Famer, Heisman Trophy winner Earl Campbell, world-renowned neurologist Dr. Edward Fox, we call him Foxy. And on top of all that, we have Sarah Garcia, an MS patient as well as former MS scholar. You've got all these different perspectives talking about how it is that we handle or tackle multiple sclerosis. You've got a parent, a patient, as well as a neurologist. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen, so we can grow. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. I am your host, Tyler Campbell, and as you can tell, if you didn't know about the video before, I'm hoping that you can feel our energy collectively coming to a screen near you. For those of you who don't know, this is a magical night for me to be able to get to this standpoint. Everybody on this panel is extremely excited, and we will get to those introductions here shortly. But I want to let everybody know there's some excitement on the website that you are on. All right, we have a giveaway that is taking place. We have information to give, but first and foremost, we have a giveaway that I want to announce. So everybody head to proplayerfoundation.org if you are not there currently, and we are giving away some Brad Paisley. Yes, Brad Paisley, that guy from country music, autographed boots, as well as your very own Earl Campbell Love You Blue jersey. All right, we're not doing any tickets. There is no money involved. This is simply a giveaway. So register your name on the email, and we will announce those winners of these 2 items as we are going through this show. Now, many of y'all are looking at this audience, and first you're looking at that video you just saw, and you're wondering, well, who the heck is this guy? Well, again, I'm your host, Tyler Campbell, and I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 21 years old while attending San Diego State University. It came to me out of the blue without warning. And at that particular time, I woke up one time in the middle of the night, and instead of waking up and rising to my feet, I fell flat on my face. Paralysis down the right side of my body, and I had slurred speech and a neck jerking twitch. And you guessed it, the ultimate diagnosis ended up being multiple sclerosis. Since that point, I'm 34 years old now and living with relapsing and remitting multiple sclerosis. Not only myself, my family, as well as Pro Player Foundation, we have made it our mission. We have made it our purpose. This is our service to do more for the multiple sclerosis community. Last year, Educate, Elevate, and Collaborate was just nothing more than a brainstorm. And now we have brought that thing to life. Let this event be proof to anybody, whether it's you affected by MS, whether your family is going through MS, or whether you know of somebody else who is living with MS. You share with them this story of what is taking place here tonight, and you let them know that all you have to do is dream it. All you have to do is believe it, and it can be done. This is a very special night, and we are excited for you all to be here. And we have some amazing people to my left and to my right who are going to be a part of changing the game, delivering some important and necessary research to have us engage in some necessary conversations so that we can help lead to earlier diagnosis, so that we can work collectively in these communities that are of need, so that we can help people who are desperate and dire need of answers, who are feeling alone in whatever it is that you're going through. And right now I'm here to tell you that you have a friend in all of us. So let's go, ladies and gentlemen, so we can grow. And so enough about me. Let's get to these amazing people who are on stage, and they look more handsome and definitely more beautiful than I. Can we say that? Because Dr. Okai is crushing the game here and right now. So she is my first introduction. And amazingly enough, you came down here nicely. You came down here with the car service, curbside. She came through looking good, you all. And this is Dr. Annette Okai. And so when I'm telling you all who don't know much about neurology, this is the Tom Brady of neurology. All right, you are about to get some amazing knowledge. She comes to Earth and she works at the North Texas Institute of Neurology and Headache. And she has made it her mission to provide the research, to do your due diligence and research, to provide your patients with the best care that you possibly can. But not only that, she's nationally known for the work that you do. And so we thank you so very much, Dr. Okai, for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. She made sure that I did my best job on her introduction today. All right? And so thank you, Dr. Okai. And next, this man has been a great influence in my life. As somebody who has helped me, just like so many others, with their diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, and is an amazing friend. And that is Dr. Edward Fox. Dr. Fox, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. So happy to be here.
Hey, practicing from Central Texas Neurology, right in Round Rock, Texas. And so it is a joy. These two individuals have a wealth of knowledge. And so we bring our A game here at Educate, Elevate, and Collaborate. And the next person I want to introduce, it warms my heart because I remember her coming on stage for some of the private functions we had for multiple sclerosis in the past. And her name is Sarah Garcia. For somebody who's been an MS advocate, a former MS scholar, someone who went through the ranks with MS, got her bachelor's degree, got her master's degree, and is now working within the school system in Hayes, Texas. Sarah Garcia, how are you doing, ma'am?
I'm really good.
Oh, man. She's nervous, y'all. We're going to make her comfortable. We're going to make her comfortable, and y'all make her comfortable at home, okay? And last but not least, it means the world whenever you have family members' support. And for me to have my father be able to walk alongside me throughout my walk of multiple sclerosis and make multiple sclerosis work his personal advocacy work. My father, NFL Hall of Famer, Pro Football Hall of Famer, Heisman Trophy winner, all of that stuff, yeah. But to me, he's just a father and has always been a father first. And that's Earl Campbell. How you doing, Pop?
I'm fine. It's an honor to see such distinguished people on this panel. But Sarah, I remember when she was just...
I know that's right.
Wouldn't look at the paper. I remember from the first time we started in Austin, she was great.
I know that's right. So as y'all can tell, it is all love right here and right now on this stage. But listen, nothing is possible. Nothing is possible if you don't have other people to believe in your dream. I told you this was a dream to be done over a year ago, and here we are living it and we are breathing it. And it wouldn't be possible without our amazing, amazing sponsors, our MVP sponsors, Biogen and Bristol Myers Squibb. Thank you so very much for believing in what we're doing at Pro Player Foundation. And then we have our tailgate sponsors, Genzyme and Genentech. We thank you all so very much. But we also have those unsung heroes, right? Those individuals who may not come from the big company, but they believe in everything that we are doing. And so when you have somebody from the NFL, like the Tennessee Titans, who understands that the Campbell family has a vision and want to support. Thank you so very much. The University of Texas Club, where we're here, and right now, we thank you all so much. And Mark and Jackie DuPont and Carlson, we thank you all because all the way out in California, somebody believes in what we're doing here in the state of Texas, and that means something. And then 1011 Interactive. We thank you guys so very much. Without you all and your support, tonight would not be possible. So enough of me bumping my gums. Let's get into what we are supposed to get into tonight, and that is a discussion about bridging the gaps in multiple sclerosis communities, the underserved community, the Latino community, as well as the African American community. And we're about to fill you all with so much knowledge that you will feel empowered when you walk away from the discussion that's taking place tonight. So because we have people of different walks, I thought we should do the due diligence of taking baby steps into our discussion as we get more and more intensified and more direct. So Dr. Okai, I want to come to you. If you can, just go ahead and break down, because we have people who may not be aware, people who are trying to get the knowledge. what exactly is multiple sclerosis?
So multiple sclerosis is a disease of the central nervous system. The central nervous system really is the brain, the spinal cord, and the optic nerve. And patients get symptoms that affect these parts of the central nervous system and manifest as different things. You, Tyler, mentioned your first symptoms of paralysis and you not being able to walk. For others, it may be their vision, it may be vertigo. It comes in multiple flavors for different people. And the main thing that is happening in the body is that your nerves are being attacked by certain cells in the body. Those cells look at your nerves as foreign and attack them, and that causes the symptoms on the outside. So that's just the ABC, the basic of MS, is that you have an autoimmune self-attacking cell that causes symptoms, and you have to treat those symptoms and get them under control to control the disease.
Wow. And so it's a lot. That is a lot of information for somebody who is definitely just walking into this disease. And being a minority, being an African American male, you're cultured about sickle cell anemia. You're cultured about high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease. Those are the things that we pay attention to and know more of. So a lot of times now a patient is walking into a doctor's office. And Dr. Fox, I have to imagine that, you see people, both of you guys, you see people, they're nervous, they're apprehensive, they don't know what to expect. How is it that you as a doctor, understanding the individuals who are coming in and their patient background and what they're already dealing with, how is it that you help people feel more comfortable when walking into this setting of a potential multiple sclerosis diagnosis?
One of the first questions I want to ask somebody who I'm first meeting is whether they know anybody who has MS. Because if they say they know somebody with multiple sclerosis and they're doing fine, whether they're on treatment or not for that matter, I know that conversation can be very different than if they tell me that they had a relative who died with multiple sclerosis long ago, or they've had a friend or somebody they grew up with. And if I can tap into what they know, then I can help them get to where I am in terms of being on the same page of where they need to focus their energies. And so it is very hard to be diagnosed with a disease that's very unpredictable. And so you don't know what the next day, much less the rest of your life, is going to look like. So I got to let them know they're not alone. If they are alone at that time, I got to make sure they don't feel that way when they leave. So I have to give them the information that they can get by talking to other people, by going online, going to resources of people who are there for them, and building that support system for them from the ground up if necessary.
Wow, and that's huge, because you're well aware that that support system may not necessarily be there. And for a lot of people coming from our communities, this is the first time. You're coming with a lot of ideas, what could be. Dr. Google is not always the best doctor that's out there. So allow yourself to get comfortable and come with, I guess, an ear to listen. Not just an ear to hear within your doctor's appointments. Really take the time to have an ear to listen. These are licensed professionals who are going to come and try to bestow the best possible knowledge upon you for your care for this thing that has not been foreseen. Also, Dr. Kai, I think you pointed out an amazing thing in our rehearsal, and you talked a lot about your Latino patients and how you actually feel more comfortable because the language barrier is there, and you don't allow that to stop you as a doctor from giving the best adequate care. And how can we ease the minds of those individuals who are maybe nervous about not booking an appointment because they're fearful of the language barrier?
That's a great question, because when you are taking care of a patient, you have to have a connection with the patient. And the first connection that you can have with a patient is being human. Humanity is important. You have to let someone know that you care about what they're presenting with, and that you're going to help them walk the journey that they're going to go through. And it's the first thing. And then whatever resources are available to you, you use that to get through to the patient and try to talk in a language that they understand. And it may not only be speaking Spanish or speaking English, it's what they can get from you and what they understand that you can help them with. It's getting the message across in the best way possible. But I think underlying it all is you have to be human. You have to show that you care and that you care about treating them and getting them to the best place that they can live their best life at that particular time.
Mm-hmm. And I like that. I want to piggyback off of that because there are times when you all as patients listening in, it may not be your first time within the doctor's office. Maybe you've been to a neurologist before, all right? And how I guess what I really want to get to is how often is misdiagnosis occurring for people? Or I know sometimes patients can come in and they feel beat up, they feel tired, they may have walls up. How is it that you, I guess, make people feel more comfortable? How is it that doctors make people feel more comfortable who and they've been from doctor to doctor trying to get a beat on what exactly they have? They don't know what it is.
Specifically, what I do to try to make patients feel comfortable, I do not anticipate or I do not suggest that they know more than just because they've been to another specialist. I start from ground zero and I try to educate. Education is key.
Yes.
So everyone that walks into my office, even if they've had the diagnosis for 20 years versus 2 years versus 2 months, I start what MS is because sometimes just hearing it differently, they may pick up something new. Start with what it is, what the plan is going to be, how does my plan align with their plan. Talk about what their fears are and ask them specifically, what are your concerns? What are your fears? What can I address for you? What have you read? Because social media and the internet has a big influence on most people when you're looking for information. So trying to make sure that you put things in context for them, educating them about the disease, educating them about the treatment that they're supposed to go on, and everything kind of put them at ease, knowing that you know what your plan is and your plan is going to align with theirs helps very significantly.
I dropped the microphone on that one, y'all. Fantastic response. I told you we have the best of the best who are in the building, and it's only going to get better. We also have to have this thing put on by our sponsors, and it would not be possible. So we have special thanks and gratitude to Biogen, and those of you who are unfamiliar, be prepared because you're going to learn more about them right now.
As I think back to why it took a neurologist almost 3 years to officially diagnose me, I do think me being a woman of color played a role into that.
When you think about what health equity entails, what we really need to do is make sure that our clinical trials are reflective of individuals who have the disease.
It's important to have compassion and truly understanding how a disease impacts a certain community.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Biogen. Thank you all so very much. And I told y'all we were doing our giveaway, and I did not disappoint. Y'all can hold me to my word as a host. I'm telling y'all. So, first and foremost, special thank you to everybody who has been a part of signing up for the jersey giveaway. Esther Herrera from El Paso, Texas. Relation to this one right here. We're not biased. I promise y'all this was authentic. So, Miss Esther, thank you so very much. And you will get your jersey in the mail. We'll contact you to get your information. Congratulations. Again, keep putting those emails in. We'll decide that Brad Paisley autograph booth session at the end. So you've heard from our doctors. So let's dive in a little bit deeper to a parent's perspective on MS. And also this is for individuals who are caretakers of those that they love who have multiple sclerosis. And this is an opportunity for me to bring in my father. And I want people to know that when it comes to a parent, there are many of you all who are just like my father. You aren't just present in the lives of the individuals who are affected by MS, but you also make your presence felt. And my dad, you made your presence felt in my life from the very beginning. When you were told about multiple sclerosis, because a lot of people were in this position, what was your initial thought when you got that phone call back home that I had been diagnosed with this thing called multiple sclerosis?
Well, son, I will say this. Went to the biology and the other people involved as well as your panel. You people have done a great job to go forward with your conversation about how did I feel or what. I didn't know what to think. When your mother told me, I said, well, what is that? I said, if something is wrong with Tyler, because she was out in San Diego playing football at the University of San Diego, and I said, well, I know the right people in Houston. Why don't we bring Tyler? I get some of the jet out there to get him, and y'all. She said, no, we got some great doctors here in San Diego, and that's how I found out what you had and what it was all about, what's going on.
And I think, I remember this, it was one thing for you to know it. Then I think when I got back and I was still in a wheelchair, it was another thing for people to see it. And I think that's one thing to convey, and what we all kind of struggle with within the MS world is some people have to see it to understand it. But there are some of us who don't get the opportunity for people to necessarily see what it is that we are going through. But there was a big lapse in terms of understanding. And so our family, we had to pick up the pieces and literally learn about this MS monster all together collectively. And I think what was special for me was just having a family who was supportive. I guess between my two doctors, and I'll start with you, Dr. Advice would you have for the caretakers? Because there's a burden that gets placed on caretakers for the individuals who have MS. And the caretakers have to look out for themselves too. Because I have to imagine from this perspective, he's worried, he's stressed out, he doesn't know what's happening to his child. What advice do you have for the caretakers of this new MS monster in the life of a family?
I think that really the biggest difficulty that people have as a family is feeling like they don't have enough information. And it is scary to feel like you don't know what's going to happen or what has already happened. And so the 5 questions that I think everybody always wants to know the answer to when they get to the doctor, do you think that I have MS? And second, what kind of MS? I hear the different kinds. Can you tell me what it is? Number 3 is, what is the prognosis? What does the future look like now for me in the short term and in the long term? And number 4, is there a medicine I need to be on for this diagnosis? And very importantly, how are we going to know if that medicine is working? And so as a doctor, I tell people at the beginning of the appointment, these are the 5 questions everybody wants to know an answer to. And I think that when the families are having to come to grips with this, they all need to have those answers. And so I think that the way to prepare for an appointment with a new doctor or after the diagnosis is to have those questions, and don't hesitate to write them down, because written questions brought into the visit and shared at the beginning of the visit is like, my family and I have these questions that we want answered. Some, there may be good answers. Some, the answers may be, we don't know. But I think that if you all have questions, you all should get answers. And that can be done in an appointment's time.
And I think that was kind of the key thing that took place in my family. I want to encourage people who are living with MS to invite your family into whatever it is that is going on, because your MS fight, it is a big weight to carry by yourself. The help of any friend, the help of any family member, the ability to, like Dr. Fox said, to bring family members and friends to the appointment so people can have a better understanding of what it is that MS is. It's going to take a community. But I think for the people who are living with this, who may live in underserved communities and coming from a family of history Dr. Okai, of what goes on in this house stays in this house. Cycles that have to be broken through years and years of lineage passed down within our culture, for sure. How is it, from your standpoint, that I guess you go about also making people feel more comfortable, especially coming from people of color? Because I know there's walls up when we tend to come in to the doctor's office.
Exactly. So, and those walls, you can't fault them for having those walls, but how do you break down those walls and get through to a person, especially someone of color who has reservations about the diagnosis, someone who is concerned about the treatment and if they're going to be treated right when they get in. So the first thing I always have this quote in my head is, if you talk to a man in a language they understand, it goes to the head, but if you talk to someone in their own language, it goes to the heart. So first you have to find out what connection there is you can have with that person culturally. Now, even though you may not be from different culture, it's best to educate yourself if you're in a diverse a situation, how to relate to people of other cultures. So if someone comes in for the African American patient, you have to address that they have reservations about things, reservations about starting medication, about the diagnosis, and treat it head on. Say it, this is what it is, and go and attack it right there. So that is not a barrier to continuing care. For the Hispanic person, we're in Texas and they are a huge population. You're ultimately going to see a lot of them. You have to understand that the family is important for them and they have to be there. Even this is COVID times, so the number of visitors are limited. But in my practice before, if 5 people had to be in the room, that is important for them to understand. So trying to reach them where they are in terms of how they take things culturally is very important. So breaking down walls in terms of the reservation and making sure that they know that this is there for your treatment to control your disease, and we're doing everything we can to take care of you and not hurt you. Making sure that if they are comfortable with family, with friends in there, you allow that they all ask questions and get answer to the questions like Dr. Fox alluded to. It's important that people are open and not keep things closed, because first, opening up is good for the patient. It helps relieve the burden, but the family also, they're able to talk about it and also approach anything that may arise head on. And that is key, because as Tyler, you mentioned, it's not a burden you can carry alone. And having a support system is very important.
I love what you all said, because I think some people think before coming into appointments, maybe I shouldn't ask this, or maybe I have too many questions, or should I? And I think you've heard it from 2 very professional people in the industry, top notch. Come with your questions. Put it back on the doctors. They're there to answer your questions. Whatever hesitancy you have, please address those things and bring them up. The fact that you're there, you already made the biggest step. You've acknowledged that you need help with what you're going through. So now let these people help you. I want to go back to you, Dad, because, again, not just being present, but you always made your presence felt. And for everybody listening in, I think this is where you also include your family in on whatever it is you're going through, your friends, whoever's in support. You were there for all of my major physical therapy appointments in terms of learning how to walk, in terms of learning how to write, all those things. You made it a point, and you actually drove me to therapy because I could not. For that, I will never forget those things. But I feel like our relationship went to another level because you were involved. So can you let people know about what it was like to see your child go through those things, and also what it is that you felt with our relationship going to another level because you saw my struggle and you were there with me?
Tyler, when you were first going through this, I was having some problems too. And when I took you over there, I started seeing you doing things to make yourself better. That made me even want to better myself. But I never will forget this. When I first saw this as a parent, Tyler didn't want to come to the office or something one day. I never will forget. It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. It was raining. And I was like, I'm going to find out what's going on with Tyler. And I came over to your apartment at that time, and if I can remember, with your left arm, you had to move it with your right arm, and your left leg was shorter than the other one. I said, huh? That's not my son. And then that's when I understand what MS was. But going back, I think I saw how hard you was working at trying to make yourself better, and believe me, you was putting forth a great effort, and I think that showed me how hard as a parent it was for you, but to see my own child go through something, and I think we as parents, we doesn't like to see our children go through anything but the best. But to see my son go through that even made me want to work harder at trying to do what I could and be supportive of him getting better.
And so my challenge to everybody is this. You just heard how your journey, your MS walk, your fight for your health can change and impact somebody else's life. You never truly understand who it is that you can touch. But I firmly believe that my MS diagnosis brought my family together in a way that had yet to be done. And as a result, it ended up educating our entire family. And so for that, I always include the parents, the caretakers in this fight, and it's better for it to come from an actual parent in this thing rather than just myself. MS patients, there is a power in you. And with that, you have the capability to change the hearts and minds of so many people. Don't belittle yourself or your journey. And this next person I want to bring into the fold now with Sarah Garcia. It does me such great joy and so much happiness to be able to see her. And you have your own fresh and new perspective coming from your culture and what it is that you had to go through, what things that you had to endure culturally to get you to where you are today. And so for you, I want you to take people in, Sarah, into your life when you started to notice. When were things a little bit different? When did some symptoms start to mount up for you initially? Like how old were you, and what exactly were those things that started to rise up?
Yeah, of course. So some of the symptoms that I had were blurriness in certain parts of my eye, like certain areas were very blurry. And I noticed when I was in school and I had to look at the board. I was about 11 years old. And then another symptom that I had that I still experience till today, it's like a straining in the eye, like if I move like up or down or around, it's just like this very irritating feeling. And so I wanted to ask Dr. Okai, can you please define what optic neuritis is?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, the optic nerve is one of the nerves that your cells attack. And so when they are damaged by MS, this is called optic neuritis. Now, what do patients experience when they have optic neuritis? They may have blurring of the vision like you did, Sarah. They may have double vision. Sometimes they may have wavy vision, hazy vision, pixelated vision. Those are all the terms that I have heard patients use in terms of their vision not being right. But the key is this comes on most times all of a sudden, either in one eye or the other. Is very distinct. You're unable to get rid of it by blinking, closing your eyes, or putting eye drops in. And it's persistent for over a day, and it can last for weeks, a month. So it's important not to ignore it when you start to experience difference in your vision from one eye to the other. And you were 11 years old, Sarah. What did you do? How did you approach that when you started to feel that way?
Well, I let my parents know for sure, but I think we just thought I needed glasses at that point, and we just didn't really do anything about it because the symptoms did come and go, because that's how MS relapsing remitting is.
Yes.
So we didn't really do too much about that at the time.
And I want to say this and ask this, because Dr. Fox, you brought up something as well with optic neuritis. It can sometimes be something difficult at first to understand and grasp, because you said it, not too many people schedule optometry appointments. They don't see the doctor, the eye doctor, too often. You know, the physician is up there, but in terms of if you really need glasses or things like that, you don't necessarily get your eyes checked on. So some people may have the tendency to possibly ignore it, thinking maybe I just need glasses, or this is something. I mean, how in the world do we go about that? Because that's yeah.
So I will say with a smile to patients that multiple sclerosis isn't really diagnosed until it's multiple. So the first go around, that's the normal story, that something happens and you just kind of, unless it was very, very dramatic, you may not seek medical attention for it. And there's no shame in that. And families should not be driven apart with "I told you so's" later on, that I told you this and you didn't do anything about it. And so families can have to cope with that, with the stress of the diagnosis. But what I want to point out is that there are a lot of problems that we have with our healthcare system, including that people will think, well, there are certain things that you seek attention for, you seek help for, and there are others that you don't. So if somebody has problems with their memory or their mood or vision problems, they may not seek medical attention because they just don't even think that that's a doctor problem. And that's a problem with our healthcare. And so we have to listen to each other as community members, and we have to get this word out to people that it's not okay to have blurred vision at age 11 without seeing somebody about it. Now, it's just not real common that that's how MS starts. And I just want to point this out, that we all in this panel have something in common, that we're very unique. And so anybody who tries to pigeonhole MS that, well, you gotta be Caucasian to be MS, you gotta be in your 30s to be MS, those are averages. Those aren't norms. Those are just averages. And when I was training, before there were medicines, we didn't spend a lot of time on this diagnosis because we didn't have treatments. Now that we do, we got to open our ears. We got to open our eyes, not just in the healthcare profession, but as a society, that when medical problems are happening, they have to be addressed. They have to be discussed, because that's the only way you're going to get the diagnosis early.
And I'm glad you said that, because I think for me, when I was diagnosed, it was like learning about it. It was at that time, I'm thinking 2007, is like I'm reading on MS and it's Caucasian white woman's disease, middle age, and I'm like, that is nothing that's not here. So it's like, it makes you feel like, there must be something really wrong with me if that's the case. And so I want to come back to you, because Dr. Fox pointed this out. What was it like going towards your family and now tackling this thing and getting diagnosed and having to get them to understand, as well as you trying to learn and understand what MS was like? What was that like for you, and how did you confront your family with all of this in the conversations? Or did you guys have conversations at all about it?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed 2 years after my onset of symptoms. They took me to the emergency room after. It was very similar to Tyler. I had paralysis on my left side. I couldn't walk anymore. I had to hold on to things, and my parents were just kind of like, we need to get this diagnosis, because I had some neurologists tell me that it's all in your head, it's stress, and I think that's something a lot of MS patients hear in the beginning. And so I ended up being diagnosed in March 2009 when I was 13 years old. And like you were saying with the family piece, my family was just the biggest part, because I was an adolescent. I was 13. Yeah. So they're the ones who had to do like their own research, and they're advocating for me, especially my mom. She's the one who looked up like all my medication that I needed to take, my rights, my therapies, like physical therapy. I know we found really good aquatic therapy in El Paso, which really helped. Wow. And I did it all through high school. Doctors, urologists, neurologists, optometrists. My mom also advocated for school accommodations, 504 services, which is like extra time for tests and stuff like that, so they could accommodate your needs in school. Support groups that really helped as well. My mom looked for those, and she was just my biggest advocate, and I really appreciate it. As far as like my extended family, they're really supportive. They saw me through two major relapses, so they know how hard it was, and they stayed with me in the hospital during like the steroid treatment. So they see my experiences, and they're really supportive in going to MS walks and whatever they need to do to get more information.
I think one of my favorite things about Sarah is your willingness to include, your willingness to be open, and I think you've never personally fought alone. And there's somebody in the room, nobody else can see it, but you have somebody who's very special in your life that you walk alongside with. How important is it for you to have somebody to confide in? I'm married, I have a wife, so I know what it is to have somebody walk alongside. But what is it like that for you? Because again, it was a learning curve for your family. And how big is it to just have someone that you know you can pick up the phone and call? Like what is that like for you? And what is it like being in a relationship with MS?
Yeah. So I feel like I have a lot of people that support me so much. Like I talked about like my parents, my extended family. And I have a really special life person in my life, Mark Chavez. He gives me so much love and support, and I just really appreciate it. He's been through me through my whole MS journey. We've been together for 11 years now, so most of the time that I've had MS. And he just really supports me.
I love it. I love it. And I'll say this because we have a lot of individuals who are walking this walk with MS. You mentioned your family, and I can only understand that there's a big financial burden placed on the family with MS, and we'll talk more and more about that as we go. But for the doctors who are here, I wanted to also piggyback off of, because knowing a little bit about Sarah and coming from West Texas, what advice do you give to patients who aren't willing to, I guess, let the workforce know about their MS diagnosis or their job, because they are literally fearful of losing their jobs. And I know that's more stress put on you. Is somebody looking at me? Am I not turning in my work as fast? Am I limping today? Am I cutting corners, hitting walls? Do people see this? Am I going to lose my job? So Dr. Okai, where does a person start with trying to, I guess, as you're trying to get this word out about I have MS and I may get chronically fatigued, all these things, how do you go about just, I don't know, helping people to direct them with those conversations?
That is a dilemma that we as doctors face daily with our patients that are in the workforce. And, to disclose or not disclose. First, the patient has to be willing to disclose. There are some patients who say adamantly do not disclose to my employer. If I want to get FMLA, do not put my diagnosis on there. But the pros to disclosing is that you can get accommodations. ADA is there for a reason, and that can help you for those days that you are so fatigued and you cannot get out of bed, or one leg or arm isn't working, or you're not seeing the computer as well. You have accommodation in place if you have that on file with your employer. Now, the con to that, there are cons, Sarah, is that some people may look at you differently, regardless of how we want to think there's the best in everyone, and disclosing people will look at you differently. If you have to leave early, or things aren't getting completed on time, or there may have been a mistake in something that you do. So really is really individualized with the patient and their employer, how to go about disclosing, how to go about getting accommodations if needed. And we're talking about about employers, but Sarah, you also mentioned school for people who are in colleges or high school. How do we get accommodations for them as well? So looking at each patient individually, looking at the situation, and then tailoring how you approach the disclosure clause to the employer or the school.
I think that's great information. It's great information, and Sarah, I applaud you for continuing to make your family aware from the very beginning at your young age to be able to do those things. That's powerful, and that's self-advocacy work, and we're going to talk more about that. Thank you, everyone on this panel. We're going to get into our next segment, which is coming to you live and direct from Genentech. Thank you all so very much, and tune in to learn more about the company if you've never heard of them before.
When we ask questions, we make sure they are the big ones. Questions that challenge our industry. Questions that push the boundaries of science. Questions that take us beyond our labs. There's a reason our work has a bigger impact. We ask bigger questions.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and special thank you again to our tailgate sponsors, Genentech. We thank you, we love you, and we appreciate you. We're going to dive in more deeper with our discussion as it pertains to, again, minority communities. And Dr. Okai, I want to come right back to you on this. Being somebody who is an African American male within this country, I want to talk to you about the statistics that are out there that some people may not know about. And for me, I want to ask, what do you think are the reasons for, I guess they would call them the increased levels of diagnosis amongst the Latino and the Black community? We've seen the numbers go up. Is that more about finally getting inclusion more so in studies? Is it the rates have really just climaxed in our communities? Mm-hmm. What is the truth, or what are your thoughts behind maybe reasons why? Because I know when people look at this, they're going to see increase.
So Tyler, it's a combination of things, actually. So history goes back, like you said, you're not a Caucasian woman in her 20s. It was originally taught in schools that MS occurred in the Caucasian population, and it did not occur in people of color. I still have patients today who tell me, they told me I could not have MS because I was Black or I was Hispanic. So that was thought. And then as time went by, it became more recognizable in people of color that MS does occur in people of color. So first is the recognition. Early on, because it was thought that it didn't occur, that it led to misdiagnosis, like you mentioned before. So now that we recognize it, people are being diagnosed more frequently because of that. The second thing is that we also have more tools available to us that help us to make the diagnosis early on. And with early diagnosis, we can get to more people, and we have the criteria that we use. So if a person fits that criteria, whether they are Caucasian, African American, Hispanic, or Asian, they fit the criteria and they get the diagnosis. There are other things that go into the diagnosis, but that's a deeper delve. We'll table for now. So its recognition is more accurate diagnostic criteria, more tools to use to make the diagnosis, and that has increased the number of diagnoses in people of all color, including those of color.
So that's important, and that piggybacks, my family is from rural East Texas. Sarah, family from West Texas and beyond. So you're getting into more of the rural, underserved areas within our country. With people who are feeling this way, there may be a tendency to just kind of sit on what it is that you're going through with your body. How do we tackle the monster of, I guess, what we would call the underserved communities for people who have to travel further to get the necessary care that they need. Dr. Fox, do you have any advice to those individuals who are in these underserved or rural areas where just getting that adequate attention, it takes time?
It does, and I'm hopeful that one of the very few positives that we get out of this COVID era is better communication, whether it be through telecommunications or some other way that people who are more remote from healthcare are able to at least get the advice from specialists. But it is worthwhile to travel if necessary to get the correct information and get the correct treatment plan. The underserved have always had a higher burden of this in terms of time, money, the commitment to it. And I think that it has been very interesting to see people carpool in from distant towns to be seen back to back. That's where support groups really come in. It's like, okay, who do you see? Where do you travel? I wonder, do you think I should make that travel too? Maybe we should do it together, And so it looking for the best opportunities to get healthcare for folks in rural communities have been lessened by access to the internet, access to telecommunications, but also, I think, access to support groups, and that is where people ought to be looking for help.
That's good. That's huge. And Dr. Okai, I want to come to you next because I got to address the elephant in the room. And you're going to know the elephant in the room because we everybody, as a person of color, we talk about this one quite frequently. As a black male, as an African American in this country, there is a hesitancy amongst culture for clinical trials. Yes. There is a big hesitancy, and deservedly so, Clinical trials are important, and there are some things that have to work and shape out within our healthcare system to make people of color feel more comfortable. What would you say to an individual, what do you say to individuals to help them feel more comfortable or to help them feel more at ease with clinical trials, and why are clinical trials so important, especially amongst people of color?
So I will tackle the why first. It's important that people of color are involved in clinical trials because you want to know that when the drug comes to the market, it works in people like you. But if we do not have people like you in the trials, then we do not have an idea of whether the drug works effectively as it does in other population. And we have been burned with that in MS before, having the drug come to the market and the response may be different between populations. So it's important that people of color are in clinical trials because we learn early on if things work when it comes to the market. Now, the elephant in the room is that, no, we are not going to participate because of the history that the country has with clinical trials involving the African American population and how they were disproportionately affected or treated over the years. But we have learned from that, from all those injustices, and there have been things put in place to, especially now for every clinical trial, we have to take courses and adhere to certain ethical rules to make sure that what happened in the past does not happen again. And so with all of that in place, I will advise patients to keep an open mind when they come into the doctor and clinical trials are mentioned. I will advise patients to involve the family in that decision because right now it's key that we are involved in trials that in order to get the most effective medication that we can that works across all groups of people.
And I say that because I hold myself accountable first as somebody who did participate in a clinical trial. So I want everybody to know I don't ask that question being on the outside looking in. It is something that I went through, and I'm like you, I hope to encourage so that the medications and the therapies can be more adequate. Our body types are different. different's okay, but we won't know if we don't engage in these things. Dr. Fox, what are the positives for people who are going to go through this clinical trial? Obviously, I felt like I was handled like my 6-month infant child. I felt like there was a care, a greater love that was placed because I felt like I was an entity of research. There are some benefits to being a part of clinical trial.
Yes, I tell people you should be involved in research because of what it offers you, not just because it will help everybody else. No, you do it for good reasons. And I think one thing that most people don't realize until it's explained is that clinical trials aren't just about experimental medicines that aren't out yet. It's about medicines that are already there to find out if there are new benefits that we haven't been able to measure yet, to see if there's comparisons we can make between drugs, to find out whether maybe one medicine is better than the other for certain things. So one of the most important areas of research that needs to be done in people of color is what we call registration trials, where just large groups of people get in and we observe what's going on. But that means that we do spend more attention with the person who's part of that registry, because we're having to ask more questions. We're having to put that information into words and onto a computer so that we get this information for thousands of people, not just the people in our practice, it's everywhere. And so I want to point out that we needed the education in the healthcare community because we weren't doing a great job historically at all with clinical research. And it's only been during the course of the last 50 years that we've started getting it right. And I actually brought something with me today that Dr. Okai wrote that was in Practical Neurology. This is a journal that went to every neurologist in America, and she wrote an article that I read about the difficulty in getting people in different economic groups, different societies throughout the country, and you know the racial divides that we have had and how we can get past this. So it's not just educating the people with MS, it was educating the healthcare community. And it wasn't until I had to take that ethics course to start doing research myself that I really learned what our responsibility was to be fair, to offer everything to everybody, and to encourage inclusion, because it is not good enough for us to just say, well, it worked on other people, so I'm sure it will work for you. You know, that's not what we need to do. So I've been very happy in the direction that things have been going. Research is actually better now than it's ever been before.
I think that's powerful. I think that's our level of encouragement. Better than what it is before. I think we grew up with the saying from you and Grammy, leave things better than the way that you found them. And I think that is the positive thing that you all are hearing today, is that things are getting better amongst the MS community and research than the way that they were found, than the way that they were yesterday. And I'm glad that you pointed out the article, because if people didn't believe me, they now understand the legitimacy. And you can check this woman's resume and you can check his resume. It is long and lengthy. Do you hear me? So the information that you are getting today is powerful, and it relays that much needed discussion. And it is my hope and prayer that something was said or done by each and every one of you all today to help somebody else. I want to say this, man. As a parent, did you ever think we'd be doing this type of stuff for Pro Player Foundation? Did you ever think that the roller coaster of multiple sclerosis was going to bring us this direction?
Man, I don't know. I think, to answer your question, no, but I will say this. When Mary brought this young lady up on stage in Austin, when we brought Pro Player to Austin, and the hall, I never thought this was, I'm amazed at what I've even heard y'all talk about MS and all. I think it's so great, it's unbelievable.
And so my point to that is there's a level of self-advocacy work for patients, and there is power on the story that you are sitting on, and it is special. Your MS case is unique. your family, your friend, that person, that individual who you know, their case is special. And you are sitting on something that is unique. You are our best written novel that has been yet to be published. And your testimony through things like the African American Registry, or there are other places that are out there for you to get knowledge and insight, particularly amongst people of color. Stay connected with Pro Player Foundation and where we are. And so that way you can find out more information for whatever it is that you need. I thank each and every one of you all. And it was a pleasure having you all on the panel. And I told y'all before, we have one more person who won something tonight, because I know people think that the MS brain was getting me, but I got you. So Jordan D. Wald, yo, thank you, and you are the winner of the Brad Paisley boots. I hope you like country music, Jordan, because we will have somebody who gets back to you. But it was a pleasure, you all, tonight, and I want to also thank our sponsors. Our sponsors, again, because this night is not possible. These individuals are not here without you all's support. Our MVP sponsors are Biogen and Bristol Myers Squibb. Our tailgate sponsors, Genzyme and Genentech. Our unsung heroes, the University of Texas Club, Mark and Jackie DuPont Carlson, the Tennessee Titans. Boy, I hope they have a good football season. Psych! I'm a Cowboys fan. No, I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. Yeah, thank you, Titans. We love you. We respect you. We appreciate you. We got to support the big man over here. And 1011 Interactive. Hey, listen, we appreciate you all. Please continue to visit our website at proplayerfoundation.org. You can donate there. We'll have more information about research, how you can support great initiatives like what took place tonight with Educate, Elevate, and Collaborate. A special thank you to all of the camera individuals behind the scenes that you all don't see that made this thing possible. We are together, everybody, in this fight with MS. These are conversations that have to be had. This is how the healing takes place. This is how the changes start to take place. This is how things that need to be brought to the table so that we all can feel better about our MS diagnosis. And yes, they may feel uncomfortable at times, but in that level of uncomfort, that is when we have the greatest potential of growth. Ladies and gentlemen, so we love you all, we respect you all. We will keep this video up at proplayerfoundation.org, and we thank you for everybody who chose to broadcast this thing on YouTube. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and bring them to the site and help them learn more about the great individuals who are on this panel. We love you all, we respect you all. Stay safe, and let's go, ladies and gentlemen, so we can grow. And thank you for letting us engage in real life and real talk with you all this evening. Have a good night.